This session is called Skills for Today and Tomorrow's Blue Jobs. And what I'd like to do is to call on our panelists to join me on the stage. A round of applause for the students who are leaving us. They have lots of work to do. I think they're leaving the room because they're scared that I'm going to do an MPA quiz to test their knowledge on MPAs. So I'll do the quiz instead with all of you in the audience, if you prefer. Let's call on our panelists for the next session, Skills for Today and Tomorrow's Blue Jobs. Monia Faziki, Director, Social Affairs at Sea Europe and Coordinator of Shipbuilding Pact for Skills. So welcome to the stage. Thank you very much. Also, from Ireland, we have Dáire Horgan. Dáire Horgan, Senior Research and Development Specialist at Wind Energy Ireland and Project Manager of T-Shore Centre of Vocational Excellence. I'd also like to call on Daniel Voces de Onaíndi, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, Managing Director of Europêche, so thank you very much. And we also have Isabelle Ryckbost, Secretary General of the European Seaports Organization, if you'd like to also join us on the stage. And we also have Celia Murcia, Founder and CEO of Blue Jobs, if you could also join us on the stage. And actually, before we start our conversation, we have another keynote speech. So we'd like to actually set the scene, like what we did with the other session. And, you know, we can listen to that. We can also react to what we're hearing from this. So let me now call on our keynote speaker, Anne Branch, Head of Unit for Union of Skills at the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. Anne, over to you. Thank you very much.
So, it's working. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk about the next generation of blue careers and skills during this year's edition of the European Ocean Days. Now, I'm very happy to be here, as the blue economy is such an important sector, employing close to 5 million people in a diverse range of jobs, including fishing, aquaculture, marine biotechnology, shipping, coastal tourism, and offshore energy, and I'm sure many more. Like all sectors, blue jobs are increasingly influenced by technological advances and environmental considerations. And like all sectors, there are skills challenges as well as opportunities. Now, I've been asked today to say some words about the skills challenges in the blue economy, and in particular the policy solutions offered by DG Employment in the European Commission. But before I zoom in on the blue economy, I would also like to briefly zoom out to the kind of bigger picture and broader economy, because there are many parallels. But I think one of the first things I'd like to stress is that skills are really a key priority for this entire Commission. Now, the competitiveness compass, which many of you will have heard of, was adopted at the very start of this Commission's mandate, and it recognizes skills as key to competitiveness. And we see that all economic sectors in the EU are facing a persistent shortage of workers and skills. And we see that these gaps are sizable across member states, across regions, sectors, and they affect companies of all sizes. So, for example, 3/4 of SMEs say they face skill shortages, and the European Investment Bank estimates that 77% of companies in general indicate that skill shortages are holding back investment. Just a couple more examples. If we look at artificial intelligence, which was mentioned in the previous panel, it's estimated that the European Union will need up to 7 million AI-related workers by 2027. And if we take the shift to climate neutrality, it's expected to create up to 2.5 million additional jobs by 2030. So challenges, but also opportunities. Now, at the same time that we see a skills gap, we also see a transformation speed gap, in the sense that some sectors are declining and workers' skills risk being underdeployed, whilst in other sectors they're growing and those sectors lack skilled workers. So the EU is trying to respond to the skills challenges we face. So almost a year ago, on Thursday, it'll be 1 year since we adopted the Union of Skills, and this is this Commission's multi-annual strategy for skills for the coming years. And it's significant that it was one of this Commission's first 100-day initiatives, as we call them, coming soon after the Competitiveness Compass and the Clean Industrial Deal. Because of what I said earlier, that it's really recognized now that skills are crucial for our competitiveness. We need to urgently address the critical skills gaps and shortages we're facing, and we won't achieve the kind of clean and digital transitions unless we have people with the right skills. So the Union of Skills proposes some 30 actions to ensure Europe has the skills it needs, and many of them are valuable for the blue economy, and I'll return to some of these in a little while. But perhaps turning now a bit more specifically to the current and future skills demand for the blue economy, we see similar trends to other sectors, in particular this need to adapt to the green and digital transitions. So for today's blue jobs, skills in traditional maritime activities continue to be essential. However, new skills are also needed, linked to digitalization and artificial intelligence. And in many cases, people are moving from more traditional to newer sectors, for example, offshore energy. But looking ahead, it's clear that blue jobs will increasingly integrate advanced technologies. So skills related to robotics, artificial intelligence, data analysis, and sensor technologies are becoming important, particularly in areas like sustainable aquaculture and marine equipment maintenance. So there will therefore be a growing need for digital skills relevant to the sector. Now, these digital needs come at a time when Europe in general is facing a shortage of digital experts who can develop and use these cutting-edge technologies across sectors, including in the blue economy. But the EU is taking action. It has set a target by 2030 to have 20 million ICT experts. And the Digital Europe programme is providing over 500 million euros to develop advanced digital skills through specialised programmes and traineeships. But as well as advanced ICT skills, we see that there's a need for digital upskilling at all levels. Now, support for digital upskilling is a core objective of EU funding, and the current funding period has provided unprecedented funding levels. So, for example, the European Social Fund is providing 2 billion euros for the development of digital skills. And the Recovery and Resilience Fund is providing 23 billion to digital skills over this 7-year funding period. But turning also to sustainability skills, these are also crucial to the blue economy, as the jobs often require knowledge of marine conservation and practices that minimize environmental impact. There will therefore be greater demand for skills in renewable energy, such as those relating to offshore wind and tidal energy projects. And understanding marine ecosystems and climate change impacts will also be critical as the blue economy strives for sustainability and resilience. Now, turning to what we in DG Employment are trying to do or can do to support the sector. We have various initiatives, and these include the Pact for Skills and related funding actions such as the Blueprint Alliances and the Centres of Vocational Excellence, and they can play a key role in supporting the development of skills needed for blue jobs. Now, the Pact for Skills, this is something I think you're going to have an example here in the panel of the Pact for Skills. But the Pact encourages industries to collaborate and provide training that matches the evolving demands of the economy. And it fosters partnerships between governments, businesses, and training institutions. So it's trying to leverage public-private partnerships with the aim to ensure that the workforce is equipped with relevant skills that can be adapted as the sector evolves. And there are two large-scale Pact partnerships that are working on skills for the blue economy. So one on shipbuilding and maritime technology, and I think Monia here is from the Shipbuilding Pact for Skills, and also one for offshore renewable energy. Both have been directly supported by EU funding through the Erasmus Plus Blueprint Alliances. And what these alliances do is that they gather skills intelligence, they set up a sector skills strategy, they identify changing and emerging job roles and related training programs, and design a long-term action plan for the sector. Now, another example of EU skills support measures is our support to what are called Centres of Vocational Excellence. You'll sometimes hear the acronym COVES, but I'll try to avoid speaking in acronyms. These projects play a key role in integrating vocational education and training with industry needs, fostering innovation and best practices. And what they try to do is to connect educational providers with maritime industries to help create a dynamic and responsive training environment, supporting current employment needs, but also trying to anticipate future trends and needs. And I think it's important to note that actually what we see across the economy is that 6 in 7 current shortage occupations require vocational education and training skills. And so these centres are part of our response to tackle this issue. And I can give you a couple of examples to illustrate their work. So one, for example, is in the field of aquaculture. It's called the Bridges Project. And it's a good example of how these centres can lead transformative changes in the blue sector. So the project has developed a transnational aquaculture platform with 4 North European countries producing finfish. And the project seeks to provide flexible responses to the training, innovation, and entrepreneurship needs of industry. Another interesting example, which addresses port city regions, is portability. And this aims to develop innovative strategies and methods for the economic diversification and reconversion of port city regions towards a just transition. And it brings together a European partnership of 27 organizations across Europe, creating a network in 4 key Mediterranean port areas in Italy, Spain, Greece, and Cyprus. And I'm glad, I believe you'll also hear about a Centre of Vocational Excellence in the panel from Dáire. So, I mean, these are just a few examples of initiatives that DG Employment is supporting. There are many more, and many examples of these centres of vocational excellence and large-scale partnerships. But I hope to have given you a bit of an insight to show that DG Employment is trying to help build a workforce that's skilled, adaptable, and prepared to contribute to the sustainable development of the blue economy, ensuring its growth and resilience in the face of global challenges. And so I hope you've had a glimpse into some of the skills challenges we see, and also our policy solutions from the DG Employment perspective. And I'd just like to finish by really welcoming the focus of your event today, because skills are a shared responsibility for both the public and private sector, and among a range of actors, so public authorities, business, also public sector employers, education and training providers, and individuals themselves. And it's also a shared responsibility among different levels: European, national, regional, and local. So I really welcome the focus on skills at this event, and I wish you well with your excellent work. Thank you.
Anne, thank you very much. Thank you very much. A nice overview as we launch into our discussion, and feel free to react to some of the things you've just been hearing. What I wanted to do was to start with Monia. We mentioned shipbuilding. Things changing very fast in this sector when it comes to shipbuilding. Monia, just walk us through what's happening at the moment when it comes to skills, to training. What are the challenges you're facing at the moment? And also, you know, what do you see in the future? Where are we headed when it comes to all of this? Making sure that we have people prepared to fill these jobs.
Thank you very much, Seamus, and thank you very much for inviting me. So as you mentioned, our industry, I will refer to the shipbuilding industry as the maritime manufacturing industry. So we can also include shipbuilding, but also ship repair and also the maritime equipment manufacturers. So yeah, as you mentioned, we are evolving very, very, very rapidly. I can say like in a very unprecedented way. We are at the moment managing at the same time with decarbonization, so we have very ambitious goals related to the decarbonization. Then we have digitalization and also some geopolitical pressure, as unfortunately we also saw during this weekend. So this bring us to three main challenges that we have at the moment in our industry. The first one is related to the very technological speed. That is also related, linked with the green and digital transition. So we have alternative fuels, the automation, robotization, AI-based tools, and so on. And sometimes we also saw, and it's very a huge challenge, that sometimes the training providers are not able to adapt to these very to these changes that are impacting our industries. And then we have a demographic change issues. So we have, as you mentioned also at the beginning, we have this very worrying forecast that in less than 10 years, 40% of our workforce will be retired, and the youngsters or the new talents entering our industry are very few at the moment, so they are not enough. And that's a huge challenge that maybe we can also talk about it afterward. And then we have the fragmentation of the VET providers, so the vocational education and training providers. So as you may know, shipbuilding or the maritime manufacturing industry has a very mobile workforce. So we, like I'm representing also our members, so one of their challenge is that the training providers should be more harmonized across Europe. So that is something that we are tackling at the moment. As Anne mentioned, we have a shipbuilding pact for skills, and all the challenges that I just mentioned are part of the commitments of our pact for skills. So we are committed in upskilling and reskilling 250,000 workers to attract, train, and retain 200,000 new talents, and also to attract 1 billion investment from private and public. So yes, that's the main challenges in our sector. Within our Pact for Skills, we are now running a blueprint project called Leadership, in which we are just carried out a survey. And we have identified the most urgent and emergent skills. So of course, with no surprise, we have all the new skills and profile that was also mentioned by Anne. So data analysts, AI technicians, robotization, electrification, alternative fuels experts, so in ammonia, methanol, electrification, and so on. But we should not forget the traditional skills in which we are really struggling in find the workforce. So welders, pipe fitters, electricians, and so on. So yeah, at Europe level, what we are doing at the moment, together with our members, we are collecting all the best practices that each company is doing at national level in order to understand how they are tackling these issues and how also we should strengthen this cooperation between the industry and the VET providers, so that the training providers, because I think that this is key in order to have this harmonization between the industry needs and the training that are provided. So that's at the moment our work on these three challenges. So we are really welcome all the new initiatives that are has coming out with the union of skills. So the VET strategy, for example, the skills portability, and so on. There are many. So we were very happy to also contribute to them. And yeah, we will try to use also this support from at European level as much as we can.
Okay, and that's staggering. 40% of the workforce due to retire. Will they be replaced?
Yes.
We can come back to you later, Monia, on how we can make these jobs more attractive as well, because that's part of us. You know, are these jobs attractive enough for the workforce? Dáire, let's go to Dáire. You're working with industry. You're also working with training providers. This is Wind Energy Ireland and the T-Shore Centre of Vocational Excellence. So what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure that this is working, that we have this synergy, achieving this, step forward for people into the blue sector?
Yeah, so firstly, Wind Energy Ireland, who I work for, we're the representative body for the industry in Ireland. But we do, as I am on the research team, and we're involved in the T-Shore Centre of Vocational Excellence project, which works in Ireland, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands, looking at vocational skills for the offshore industry. Really trying to identify and identify the skills that are required, which I think we have done across Europe now. So now it's about how can we get that skills trained at a higher rate and to bring more people into the industry. So at the moment, the T-Shore project, we're in our final 6 months of the project. So we've kind of gone through a really strong journey so far. But I think kind of to reiterate what Anne was saying about that COVI initiative, COVI, whichever acronym you kind of want to pronounce. But we all know the EU set the direction with the policy. But the policy needs to be translated into something practical, and that's where it actually happens on the regional level, and that's kind of where COVI comes in. The COVIs play a role in the ecosystem in the regional levels by working with training and education bodies and the industry to identify what skills that region needs, and then identify the regional skills, and then tackle them with European solutions. Allow that kind of ecosystem, allow that conversation of the different stakeholders to happen. And that's what really, the COVIs played a really important role in allowing that conversation to happen. Because while EU policy and direction will happen, it does happen at a slower rate. But if at regional level you have the education, training and the industry talking, that's where real impact happens. Because the industry are the ones on the ground identifying what skills are needed right now and what skills will be needed. So if that channel of communication is there between the industry and the education, that will make them more adaptable and be able to be quicker to input the true training and education that the next generation need. So that's kind of where the kind of COVI initiative is, where the T-Shore is, and one of the really good learnings and experiences that we've had. The 5 countries that I mentioned, we're all at different aspects and life cycle of the offshore industry in wind, and that learning we can take from each other. Like if we look at Ireland, we had a wind farm 25 years ago and we haven't built since. It's now decommissioned. But then we look at Belgium and Netherlands, they actually have wind farms, they have technicians going out. And then we have Norway, who have expertise and the financial capability from their oil and gas. And then Denmark has such great learnings from their OEMs and everything that they do there. So that knowledge sharing is just really positive as well.
Okay, Dáire, thanks very much. Daniel, let's come to you. Are you having a similar problem? You, of course, with Europêche, so the fishing sector, are you having a similar problem as Monia with people retiring, not attracting new workers? What can we do to make sure that people are coming to the sector?
First, I'm sorry for my voice. I'm a little bit struggling today. But I'm afraid I'm in a similar situation, or fishing industry is in a similar situation. So I'm not bringing the good news today in this panel. Actually, I would like to open with the question to the audience. I would like to know in the audience who will recommend to their children to become a fisher. Please raise your hand. So we are in the Ocean Forum today, and I think it's quite revealing that there's not a lot of people, not a single one, saying like, oh, please, when you are like above 18 years old, please join the sector because you're going to be this and that. So it's a difficult situation. We are in a situation where the fishing industry is shrinking, and we have to put a stop to this. I'm not saying that situation is terrible at company level. We're talking about macroeconomics. But if we look at the companies, we see that some companies, they are quite
nice and close to the mouth, the microphone.
Sorry. So they're doing quite well, so they can offer good conditions, good salary, etc. But I think it's not well known by the citizen that this is happening. And I also think that some campaigns, they are not helping the industry. They're actually damaging the image of the industry. So I think we need to work together and first start with the basics, with the economics. Today we sent a letter to von der Leyen on behalf of the social partners, so Europêche, ETF, trade unions, and Copa Cogeca. We are alerting the European Union that we only have 37,000 vessels active in the EU. It was more than 100,000 in the 90s. And this has an impact across the chain, shipyards, ports, supply chain, etc. So without the primary producers, there's going to be a collapse in other systems. And scientists, they're telling us that the situation is getting worse. So we really need a strategy for the competitiveness, and I would say it's the survival for the fishing industry. We also need an omnibus regulation, like for the farmers. We need to simplify rules for fishers at sea. And we need policy balance and coherence, because we talk a lot about environment, which is fundamental. We cannot survive without environment. But we need to achieve these objectives, bearing in mind what is the cost for the industry. We also need to modernize both workers and the fleet. Workers, because they're getting old, and we are not managing to replace them in time. So in the next panel, you will be talking about the generational renewal of the blue economy. So please also put fisheries in there. And also the fleet, because our fleet is getting old, 35 years old on average. So we really need a renewal plan for our vessels to make them more modern, safe, more environmentally friendly, etc. We also need to continue improving conditions on board for our fishermen, and we need more space on board. But we have some limiting rules in the European Union that is putting some obstacles on this. And we need to continue investing in digitalization, in connectivity, and in telemedicine, because our crews, they need to be daily connected to their families. And I think this is important because they operate at sea. Their work is at sea, not in land. And this all requires funding. And we are a little bit concerned about the multi-annual financial framework, the next budget for the EU, which is neglecting a little bit fisheries. And coming back to the subject of skills, competences, and cross-sectoral opportunities, the sector is traditional, but it's evolving fast. We have new requirements for new technologies, environmental protection, technical competences, etc. So we are participating in many European-funded projects, which is appreciated, the support from the European Commission on this. Just to give you a few examples, Boutcar is an Erasmus Plus project where we are developing cross-cutting competences for skills for specialists at sea, not just fisheries, but many sectors. So they are transferable and they can have more opportunities. Starfish, there's another project for innovative training programs and digital training, so our fishermen can learn from when they are at sea operating. They don't have to go back at port and then go to a training school. They can do everything at sea. And Way Forward, which is basic training for fishermen on board. And also social funding. We are also analyzing why there's this lack of attractiveness in the sector and why people are leaving the sector. So all in all, for us, it's very important to continue investing in training, in attractiveness, employability, and the mobility of the fisheries. And we need to rebuild the narrative around fisheries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Isabelle, the European Seaports Organization, we talk about evolving sectors. perhaps new opportunities as well, because they're not just ports now moving goods, lots of different activities being developed when it comes to ports. But do we have the workforce to fill all of these roles? What's the impact for you with this evolution in the way that ports are being used? What's the answer for you?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to point out this wide role of ports. We represent the port managing bodies, so the port authorities, and in Europe, ports are mostly landlord ports where all the operations and all the players are there, and it's not the port authority themselves who is doing these things. But this being said, that it's true that traditionally ports are moving goods and people, and the traditional profile of people working in ports, it's strong people, muscles, strong blokes. And this is already a first issue, that maybe it doesn't seem to be the most attractive zones to work into. Whereas in reality, ports have been moving very fast, also in the core job of these trade movements and these movements of goods. A lot is being used with digitalization, with machines, very sophisticated. So it's not anymore this physical risk job as it was before. That's one thing. On the other side, ports are now moving energy, moving data. They are the landing points for many, if not all, blue economy sectors, but also fisheries. Everyone needs a port to come on land. And it's really like this unique point where sea and land connect. And so there is a wide variety of new profiles needed. And I would say it's not blue careers, it's careers that come in the blue sector. So, in fact, what we try sometimes to voice is that you need all the profiles that you have in the city, you need them in the port. Let me give some examples, because we have this very wide role of ports. Ports is in the middle, and port managing bodies, they try also to be the facilitator, to connect, being a matchmaker. So there is a need of lots of dialogue, also with the city, with local interest groups, you know, also the people of the city, citizens who say what is happening all in these ports and why do they need to expand, etc. So you need a lot of dialogue, explaining, etc. So a lot of communication, and I would say a lot of very special skills that you maybe do not see directly in a port. So that, I think, it's something that also, as ports, we need to explain very widely what is happening in ports. Also in schools, we had it before, but this is also part of the job. And so go a bit beyond the stereotypes. So that's important. What is also, I think, quite interesting to see is that the big ports, first, the big ports are situated in big cities. It's because the cities came where there were ports. The cities were built around the ports. So, and it's very good to have also it's often in big cities that you have problems with unemployment, with people not getting the right job. So there, I think the port as a bit of, not solution, but helping each other to reflect the profiles from the one into the other. So that is very important. The other thing with all the like offshore energy, new things that are happening in ports is that you do not always need to have the big ports, but some ports that are a bit more remotely, maybe on islands or in not outermost regions, but let's say corners of Europe, become very important because of offshore energy, etc. And there you see new centers rising, and they will attract new brains, new young people to install themselves, maybe not in regions that maybe were a bit out of everything, but they become like new maritime capitals. And this is a quite, I think, interesting evolution where you can attract young people, then you will have universities there, etc. coming. There is the example, for instance, in Sweden, in the north of Sweden, where you have with all the green steel that has to come out of the port has to adapt. So you will get a lot of new movement into these areas.
So creating hubs, and so the skill sets all together, everybody finds their place. It's a bit like what Monia was saying at the beginning about it's not just shipbuilding, it's also repairs, transforming vessels as well, so creating hubs for this. So great. A lot of pressure on you, Celia, founder and CEO of Blue Jobs, global recruitment, also training platform. Are you hearing this as well? What's happening on the ground for you when it comes to recruitment, retention, attracting people to the market?
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, talking about challenges and opportunities, the first one, I actually founded Blue Jobs because there was a lack of a job platform dedicated to the marine science and the blue economy sector. So when graduates were looking for a job after their bachelor or the master, they couldn't find a platform to find the jobs, no? So there was a lack of tools, but what actually this means, it was a lack of visibility, recognition for the blue careers, no? So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is that the blue economy is very broad. We have here a representation from marine renewable energy, shipbuilding, ports, fisheries, and the needs of skills, the market from a seafarer or from a fisherman or from a marine biologist are completely different. So that's why we need to look at a specific sector, no, to understand the level of education needed. The Commission has explained they are doing really well on this partnership on specifically marine renewable energy, shipbuilding, but we need more sectorial data to design this strategy, tailored strategies for employment and to attract talent. We were talking about attracting talent, but it is completely different in one sector to the other because renewable generation, lack of attractiveness. This doesn't happen, for example, in marine science because students that decide to do marine sciences because they love, they have a passion for the sea. So challenges are different, so we need to study them differently as well. And as opportunity, in the last 10, 15 years, we have seen an increase of job opportunities. But as I said, a better recognition for blue careers. So before, there was a job advertising looking for a biologist, for example. But now you can see that the requirement is a marine biologist, a oceanographer. So this is also a really good way to attract talent, recognize that the job that they are doing, no? So I think in general the blue economy sector are still a bit behind in comparison with other sectors in terms of this visibility and recognition, but sectors are growing, job opportunities are growing as well, and what is more important, there are also room for new roles, as you mentioned, related to digitalization, related to greener, these traditional sectors.
Okay, Celia, thanks very much. Monia, let's come back to you because you talked about this need, 40%, which I find staggering. Is it also a question about diversity, making sure that we're attracting different profiles? Yes. Celia will also talk about this maybe afterwards. You know, not just mostly men, but women as well when it comes to shipbuilding. Is it, you know, this diversity of the talent on offer?
Yes, thank you, Seamus. First of all, I want just to say that I totally agree with Celia, and it's something that when also we are contributing some EU policies, we always say that one size fits for all policy is not what we need. We need more sectorial policies that are also adapted to the challenges and the needs for each sector, because as you mentioned, the maritime sector is already very fragmented, but we are also competing with other sectors, so I don't know, automotive and aerospace and so on. Coming back to the questions, yes. As I mentioned before, we carried out a survey within our Blueprint project leadership, in which we have asked how many women do you have in your companies. And unfortunately, more than 75% responded that it was between 0 and 19%. So we are very low. And it was a general question. So maybe also if for the respondent, they responded like 20%, maybe there was women in the administration or on, on the health and safety department, that it's the sector where, department where we saw more women. And that's a next step that we would like to do, is to go into detail on this, because when we talk about technical position of women, we know that the maritime manufacturing industry is male-dominated. So having said that, why we are struggling with not in attracting youngsters, but also with the women, is mainly about the very bad image or the perception of the sector. So we always say that the shipbuilding and maritime in manufacturing industry is characterized about 3 Ds. So we have difficult, dangerous, and dirty. So that's how people see us. So we are working hard. It's not an easy task